If there's a win, then go get it.
What I call winning. If your goal is to be a better mother, if your goal is to get promoted.
If there's a life, you've got to live it.
So don't hide your superpower. Don't drop your mic. Don't lower your voice. Don't hide who you are.
If there's prosperity, I want you to have it.
Then what we aspire to become is really inevitable and not impossible.
And if there is wisdom, I pray you receive it.
And so I think the companies did not do a SWOT analysis of what could go wrong or what must be true in order for them to hire 50 or
IoT or all of the technologies that happen that we try to tighten up and shore up. But there's other factors that happen in the anatomy of a breach, and that is the human factor.
We have that same mindset about it's just a matter of time, it's not impossible, it's inevitable, then that will guide our walk, and we will walk boldly.
Always find a way to win.
When you have this growth mindset, you say, you know what? I've won before. I can win again. I have so much to offer. I have so much to gain. I am not done.
1, 2, 3. Okay, you heard from them. We gotta go. We gotta win.
Well, hello, family. Hello, friends, and hello, colleagues. Welcome to another episode of the Winner's Circle. My name is Daphne Jones, former Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer, currently a public board member, published an author of the book, Win When They Say You Won't, and CEO of the Board Curators. And now I'm so excited to keep hosting the Winner's Circle Live, which is a monthly podcast. In my book, as you all may have read, I share other people's stories and triumphs because I believe that by ourselves, we know a little bit. But when we tap into the resources and experiences and wisdom of others, you know what? We can know everything. We are not here by ourselves or for ourselves. We can all enjoy the knowledge that others have, and that knowledge can then become ours. These live broadcasts are where I seek to bring you great people who serve others, who inspire others, right? Who lead others, and whose mission is to leave a legacy. And today's guest is no exception. And these friends that I have brought on always find a way to win. So they are curated to bring you topics that are most relevant to us. These podcasts will help us learn more than we currently know. And it is my hope that it'll inspire all of us to do more than we already have. So I know my guest does before 6 a.m. more than what we do all day. Let me give you a couple of ground rules. So first, if you would like to ask questions, and I hope you do, hit hashtag AskBishop if you would like to ask questions. And then I encourage you to join my video series, The Winner's Circle Perspective. Please subscribe. So it's time for me to introduce to some and present to others a leader, a dear friend, a role model, a supporter of mine, my husband's brother, my brother-in-law. For those that may sleep and live under a rock, let me tell you a little bit about him, at least those things that I can describe in words. So his name is Bishop Noel Jones. He's a scholar, he's an author, he's a philanthropist, he's a charismatic leader. He's an American theologian and teaches a message of reconciliation to God. He is known for thinking outside the box and has been labeled eclectic. He's a maverick. He's a preacher's preacher. He preaches the word of God. However, his influence in entrepreneurial and governmental circles is also known. He has served as the pastor of the City of Refuge, formerly Greater Bethany Community Church in Gardena, California, for over 27 years. And the City of Refuge is one of the leading spiritual beacons in the LA area. What they focus on is food banking, clothing distribution, substance abuse detoxification, and they're an outlet to help the homeless and other underserved and indigent members of the community. He is focused on God's timing for your life. In the book that he has written, God's Gonna Make You Laugh. And he's also written a book, The Battle of the Mind. He recently, I guess it's probably been a few years ago, celebrated 50 years in ministry. And then he recently wed Lady Loretta Jones in a beautiful ceremony that brought family and friends together to celebrate their reunion. He's done it all. He's been all over the world probably 12 times. He is a great man. I'd like to introduce you guys to my brother-in-law, my friend, Bishop Noel Jones. Hello, Bishop.
Hello, Daphne. It's always good to be with you.
We welcome you, and we're so glad that you are here. And you know, you have always been, ever since I've known you, you're a winner in many things. You know, as I mentioned, a scholar, a philanthropist, charismatic speaker, and all those things. And I wanted to have people that are watching us know that whatever one is called to be, they can win. So some people that are watching us are entrepreneurs, some are senior executives in Fortune 50 companies, some are ministers, some are doctors, some are board members. And you are the first named spiritual leader that I've had on the Winner's Circle. And I'm delighted to talk about with you winning at another angle. So let's see how Bishop wins and helps others win from his calling. So are you ready to get started?
I'm ready whenever you are. I'm with you.
That's great. Well, let's talk about the winner's definition. As someone who has influenced Bishop presidents, you've influenced pastors and mentored pastors, you've authored bestsellers, and you have served tens of thousands of people. How do you personally define winning at this stage of your life? And what would you say to encourage and help someone who believes that they may not be winning?
Well, I think one of the things that I think is so very important is a selflessness that goes with dealing with other people and seeking to make other people better that are around you. It makes you better. So one of the things that I have practiced over the years is when people come with ideas, when people come with creative, cognitive patterns that are unusual or usual. The I only ask one question, and that is, how can I help you?
Hmm.
I think it's very important to promote winning from a point of view of helping others as opposed to seeking what is in it for yourself. So I never make an approach like, what is in it for me? If I can make the contact, if I can join the powers together that be, if I can bring two groups together that will make something happen and get in the middle of it, it's never what is in it for me. It's how can I help you? I remember just one case some years ago. I just received $2 million of stock as a gift from someone who asked me 10, 15 years ago about making some connections for them because my Rolodex is my greatest weapon now,
Yeah.
and rightfully so at my age. And they said, I need to make contact. And I did something for them. I said, how can I help you? And later, now they're saying, here's what we want to do. And it's very critical. So you help people to win, and you win also.
Amen. Okay, so you basically win through others' victories as well. So
Nobody's an island.
that's right. And there's a saying that a tree does not grow tall by itself. It has the forest to help it grow. Who is in your forest? Who helps you to grow? Is it the other
What
people you help, or do you have other people that you surround yourself with that helps to elevate and lift you up and inspire you to keep on going?
I think it's a multiple thing. It's not just one individual situation. I think it's multiple situations. For instance, uh, everybody's got a shelf life. And at my age, I'm passing out of this generation. So when I mentor people, and there's a difference between mentoring mentees and dealing with proteges. There's a difference. It may not be a profound difference, but there's enough difference. But my point is, when I'm dealing with men who optimize their time with their environment, I'm passing out of. And I have, like everybody else, all of us have limited time on earth.
Right.
So I could just put it another way. I could say all of us have an expiration date. But what extends my expiration date is me dealing with people, men and women, who are optimal in their contemporary environment that I'm passing out of. And I give them sage old wisdom, and they turn around and give me contemporary insights to the Gen Zs, to the millennials, rather, millennials first, Gen Zs, and now alphas. So that extends my shelf life. So as I help them, they help me. But then that's the younger group. But then I have around me people who are better at doing what they do than I. So I do what I do, they do what they do, and we put that together. So now I've got a contemporary group and I've got a younger group, and they're all working with me to make me win as I make them win. And that's how it works.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
how it works. Sometimes you got to pass the ball.
Right.
Sometimes you got to take the shot yourself. Sometimes you got to need some help somebody on defense. It's a conglomerate. That's how it works.
Right. And it's like a system. And all the systems
Yeah,
work together in an interconnected kind of a way. And one doesn't necessarily dominate, but one can shine because it has a particular gift, and another one can shine because it has another gift, but they all work
it's
together.
that's exactly right.
Got it. Well, so let's talk about winning beyond the pulpit. You have been labeled eclectic, a maverick, and I think I mentioned earlier, a preacher's preacher. In a world where people are pressured to stay in their lanes, how did you give yourself permission, if that's the right word, to influence not just spiritual circles, but entrepreneurial circles? You're the pastor to the Hollywood movie stars, US presidents, and others in governmental spaces. What does winning look like when you have refused to be boxed in? You know,
Well,
wondering, should we stay in our lane or should we reach out and go outside when we think we can help? How do you do that?
sometimes staying in your lane is being outside your lane.
Mm,
It
talk
depends on it. Some people are called to stretch the boundaries. Some people are called to maintain the boundaries. In the same statement that we made earlier, each person has a place that is uniquely theirs. Now, the problem is when you think you have to be like everybody else. Well, here's a big problem. When you have to be like everybody else, you cheat everybody else of yourself,
who you are.
because the uniqueness and the idiosyncratic gifts that you have, in order for you to be successful or in order for you to win, there has to be a creative need. So the gift giver has to create a need for your gift. Because if there's no gift created, if there's no creative need for your gift, then you'll never move forward. You have to be needed, and the gift that you have is idiosyncratically yours. And he has to create an idiosyncratic need for the gift. So you're put in a position where if you don't function, something's going to fall apart. And so it's very critical that you be who you are, because you can't be me, because I'm the best me that I can be. And they can't be Daphne. Daphne's the best Daphne that anybody can be. And when you try to be Daphne, you try to be me, you cheat me of you, and we need you to complete the circle. So be yourself, operate. If it calls for going outside, you have to understand how people are where they are, their mindset, their idiosyncratic conceptualization of God, of society, of who they are, and then you operate within that, which means that anybody who's going to be a winner has to be flexible. You have to be able to sit and talk to somebody who is homeless and be able to talk to a president at the same time. But you have to understand that you have to flex in order to be able to deal with people in different situations, different spaces.
Okay. So I should not try to be a Noel Jones because that job's already been taken.
Oh no, because you can't be as good a me as I can be.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I can't be as good a Daphne as Daphne can be. And since you don't have it all and I don't have it all, we have to cross pollinate. We
Right,
have to share.
right. I love that, and it does require a bit of self awareness and understanding
Oh,
of what gifts you do bring. There are people who are walking around who have no idea what their superpowers are, and Einstein always says that everybody's got is a genius, and if you judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, that fish will feel stupid for the rest of its life because fish don't climb trees. A fish has to know what its purpose is so it can walk in that, or should I say, swim in that purpose, swim in
yeah.
its genius. So I hear you. That's awesome. Okay, question about Jamaica roots and your dad. Um, Being from Jamaica has shaped who you are. You spent how many years did you spend in Jamaica when you were
I
there?
was 7 to 17, 10 years actually.
10 years. Okay. So, are there specific values or principles that your dad, Bishop Robert Jones, have been non-negotiable in your journey to building the city of refuge, and as you influence presidents and Hollywood stars? Can people use their cultural identity as a competitive advantage? Is that what you did? How did you stay focused on what it was that you were there to do? Did your dad influence that?
Well, I thought it was, to be frank, I thought it was ridiculous for white people to think that Jamaicans were any different than African Americans from the point of view of origin. Because at the end of the day, the same slave ship dropped a
Yeah.
few off down in the West Indies, and then the rest dropped them off in New Orleans and Carolina and all that kind of stuff. And you just have to go to Ghana and to go to West Africa and find out that you're the Ibu tribe like I am or whatever. And
Yoruba.
you find out that all the roots are the same, essentially. So it's just a matter of the individual family and the individual family's interpretation of biblical truth, because we're all biblically oriented, in order to apply that to life in general. The upbringing in Jamaica was one that was extremely strict. And one thing you can say about the English is that the English, as opposed to the other colonizers, the English educated their colonies. And so Jamaica, the education was intense and it was extremely uh, discipline oriented. So consequently, I learned a lot of discipline from my step grandfather. You got to
Ah,
remember that I grew up with my step grandfather those 10 years and my grandmother. And I had great problems trying to reconcile why we were in Jamaica when my father was the same age as my step grandfather. And only when I became a father did I understand that there was no woman in the world that was going to move my kids to another place separate from me, particularly if I'm in an industrial country and they're in a third world country. So, what really I learned was to be frugal. I learned how to manage a little and make a lot out of it. And that was what I learned in Jamaica primarily. So my father, however, he never believed in anybody renting. So from the point of view of economics, he said it's Jones on me. That's what he called it.
uh-huh.
But the whole point was there's some things you don't do. If you make $50, don't spend 51. Never rent. And if you buy a house, buy a duplex, buy a tenplex, buy a multiple family house so that you don't have the burden of having to pay for it yourself, which allows you the freedom with money to do something else. He was very, very sure about what you needed to do. And add that to the frugality that I learned in Jamaica, and I didn't have to have what everybody else had to have. So instead of buying designer clothes, I bought designer stock, you
Yes.
see,
Yes.
because I didn't have to show it. And that's the and still to today. My father, when he first came to America, he bought multiple cars. Every year he changed the car. And then finally he decided to keep one car 20, 30 years. Well, I didn't get from him to buy a car every year. What I got from him was keep a car
For as long as you can.
for as long as you can.
Yes. So I think he
But
used to say, I don't know if I got this from you or Max. Your dad would say, the richest among these are the ones that have the least amount of need.
yeah, that's
You did
dead
not
straight.
need as much. You did not let yourself need as much with your frugality perspective and the education that you had, so that you weren't always looking for something. You weren't always looking for another car. You didn't have the need to have a car every year. And so,
Well, and that's very important. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if I'm sitting here right now and I need a 250-foot yacht with two helicopters, and I just need that. Then I am going to, with where I am and the people I work with and the church that I pastor and the income that I make from speaking up and down all around, I'm going to have to up my scale to Elon Musk, you see, and I'm not going to be very content. And I think part of the problem with church, if I may interject that, is that we teach greed instead of contentment. And my father was a number one advocate of being content. And in order to be content, you have to be more inner than outward. You see, because most people judge their significance and their importance by what they have, not who they are. But spiritual people and content people judge themselves by who they are, and to hell with what you have.
right.
I have seen so many people who have a lot who are the most unhappy
Unhappy
people
people.
you will ever see in your life. And I hate to say, the main man exemplifies that attitude.
Nothing is ever enough, because everything is based on what they see and what they feel, as opposed to who they are and their purpose that they've been brought to live through. Okay. So talk about your book. Just give me like a minute or 2 minutes about the battle for the mind. That is, I love that book. That's one of my favorite books of all time. And my mother, I think I credited my mother saying that whoever's got your mind's got you. But I might have gotten it from you.
Oh well,
Can you talk about it?
well that's a real fact. The
Yes.
the issue of the mind. God made man, when God noticed, he spoke everything into existence. But when it came to you and I, he formed us meticulously and scrupulously out of the dust of the ground. That's why David said later, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, because he put us together with his own hands. He didn't just speak us, he put us together. Now, when he created us and he formed us out of what he created. So if it had a beginning, it can have an end. That's something that's ephemeral. But then we just laid there, of course, a structure that he had formed out of dust of the ground, connecting us to the earth. But then he breathed in us, into us, a breath of life, and that's a part of himself. And when he breathed into that panoply of flesh, we became a living soul. From the Hebrew napash, soul, mind, creature, person. Now, that means that breathing into the what he created now brings a soul that is connected both to the spirit, which is eternal, and to the earth, which is ephemeral because it has a beginning date. So now the battle is between the earth, the carnal, the sensual, because I'm connected to my earth through my senses and my world through my senses. I'm connected to God through the spirit that he breathed into me. So the spirit then has influence, but the flesh has influence. The influence of the flesh was totally negated by the power of the Spirit. Because when God came to visit man in the cool of the evening, he came to visit what he breathed into man, his spirit that made him a living soul. So when man fell, ah, he lost connection to the spirit.
Yeah.
So he became an outsider. He became carnal because the only influence to his soul was his flesh, his sensual connection. So when you're reborn, now the old man, the new man, and the battle is for the mind. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If he lives for the ephemeral, he will die. If he lives for the eternal, he will live. And that is basically what the book is all about.
That is great. So let me try to ask a question out of that. Um, so there's the philosophical and a practical question that I would ask. Can we actually control our minds, Bishop? Or are we simply like responding to programming, to trauma, chemistry, spiritual warfare? You know, if the mind is the gateway to all outcomes, how much agency do we have? How much agency do we really have? And how do leaders develop that agency in themselves? Do we
Well,
actually?
when it comes to the mind, it comes to the body, it's what you feed yourself.
Yeah,
So if I am programmed a certain way based on the world system, based on how I was raised, based on the influence of parents, the influence of the situations, the influence of those things that are worldly. And you have to understand this, that everything that is worldly, we're connected to it because the only way to enjoy your world is through your senses. My eyes, my nose, my mouth, my ears, my hands. And that's touch, hearing, smell, taste,
we see.
and of course sight. Now, that connects me to my world. And that's a God-given gift. No question. All that is in the world, lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, pride of life. And and Eve experienced all that before she had the fruit. There's no question. So the whole issue then of my connection to my world is a legitimate one, no doubt in my mind. But I'm also a spiritual creature.
Great feature, yeah.
So I have to have a connection to the Spirit of God, which is now by faith. Before he visited me in the cool of the day and we had the communion. Now I have to believe him
Yes.
because my senses don't connect me to him. So I'm not sensual. See, when a person is connected to the world and they live by the world only, you call them sensual. When they're connected to God and they overcome the power of the world, you call them spiritual. So at the end of the day, my significance and my ability to win in my mind is contingent on what I feed myself. And if I feed myself spiritual things, then I can control everything that's natural and have the power to determine my destiny based upon the guidance and the leading of the document that I call the Bible. And you have to understand this. If you check history carefully, you will find that nobody who is ever going to be a great achiever will achieve by being personality driven, by persons, by individuals, by following their whim. I mean, you end up like Jim Jones. You end up somewhere with somebody giving you cyanide. You generally have to follow a principle. And let me put it another way, and I don't want to take your very special show politically. When I voted for Kamala Harris, I was not voting for a person.
Right. Or
I
principles.
was voting for a principle
Yes.
predicated upon the Constitution.
Yeah.
Because if you check closely, every deliverance needed a document. You cannot be left to the whim of man. So if a man is controlled by a document, the Ten Commandments, the code of, I think it's Sennacherib. No, Hammurabi Code. If you look all the way back 2050, you will find the Ishata, the Hittite laws, and you come all the way to the Magna Carta. Every time there's a deliverance, there is a document. It's the document that keeps us in line. So now the greatest document of all is the Sermon on the Mount. And if you feed that, you can control your destiny.
Wow.
If you go with the narcissistic, egomaniacal stuff, you may sprout up for a minute, but you're going to be wasted in the end
So it's not long lasting at all.
because you don't have any control.
That's right.
It's
Right.
whimsical.
Right. Right. So we do have agency. We do have the ability to control our mind, and by what we feed ourselves,
Exactly.
how that's going to happen. So we're not helpless. We're not hopeless. We have the power.
And you have to be accountable.
You
See,
have
one of the great problems that we have, especially, and I can connect religion and psychology, one of the great problems we have is blaming the devil. You see, we blame the devil. So we need somebody to extricate the devil. We need somebody to exorcise the devil. Exorcise the devil. We need somebody to pray for us. Well, I can get rid of all your devils if your money is big enough. I can get rid of your devils. But what it does is it eliminates lifestyle. Much of our pain and problems in our world is lifestyle. It ain't no spirit. The spirit didn't take that vodka or that whiskey and open your mouth and put it there. You picked it up.
Did that.
The spirit didn't cheat on your wife. You did that. You see, so the whole point of shirking accountability by making other entities responsible for our behavior loses control. You gave control to whatever you chose, but if you want control, you have to have the discipline. And when you have the discipline and put your mind in that lock, it's like the guys practicing every day, and you see them playing basketball, and they're going at this phenomenal speed. They're reacting naturally because of the discipline. I have read that the only real free person is the person who is disciplined and structured.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So I think when you think about the jobs that you take, the presidents that you vote for, the people that you date, marry, etc., it sounds like it's all we should be deciding based on principles. And do their principles align with ours? And are they good? Are they pleasing? And if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, we need to think on those things that are full of principle. So we do have agency. I guess that's sort of what I said that little sentence, having agency based on what you said in a very eloquent way. Okay, great. So if anyone has any questions for Bishop, please type in your Ask Bishop, hashtag Ask Bishop, and we're going to keep on going. So you have another book, Bishop, that promises that God is going to make you laugh. But to be honest, was there a season in your life where you didn't hear the punchline and it sounded like God's timing felt more like God's absence? You know, with the war on DE&I, the war against women, the war against civil rights, the war against healthcare, the war against climate, realities. How do we think and act so we can press on and win when things around us are eating us up? So how is God going to make us laugh, help us think differently about the plight that we're in today so we can win?
Well, it depends on what side you're on.
Okay.
Because certain people think that this kind of climate, this atmosphere that we're living in is a winning atmosphere for them. So it depends on the side you're on. But you're asking the right person, because I think I'm on your side. Based on the question, I can see your position. so,
Yeah, tell me
so,
what it
so
wasn't.
let me go in from there. Let me go in from there. One of the things that I think is significant in the time in this hour is that Americans in general needed to be humbled. You have traveled the world, you have gone from place to place, and so have I. And one of the things that I have seen is that Americans have a proclivity, maybe a predilection, that might be a little stronger, to think like they're superior to everybody in the
Yes,
world.
yes,
And even African Americans who have suffered at the hands of white supremacy, and white supremacy is never going away. And everything that's being orchestrated now, and everything that's being registered, orchestrated, whatever word you want to use, is to maintain white
yes,
supremacy.
so, yeah.
That's the status quo of white supremacy. It's not going away. It'll never go away until Jesus rules in the millennium, when he becomes and shows man how to govern. And so consequently, we're in a state of being humbled so that we can understand the realignment that's happening in the world. One man, Adam, brought sin. One man, Jesus, straightened it out. And one man has realigned this world to meet the prophetic words of Hezekiah, of Jeremiah, Isaiah, and Ezekiel. Iran, Israel, Russia, China. America is nowhere in prophecy. I don't care what the evangelicals say. So there's a realignment. So what does that say to those of us who are spiritual, those of us who understand the move of God? It is humbling us, getting us to that place to understand that America is not all that beyond America is God Almighty, who is in control, and it's time for us to look up, because our redemption draweth nigh. So what does it do? It now shifts us back to what happened in the beginning of our spiritual journey, and that is, we weren't trying to get rich by knowing Jesus. We were trying to save our souls and save others and help others, and that's where we are right now.
So so the way that we should be thinking about this is that we have to continue to focus on getting to know Jesus, to live the way that we should, not don't think that we are better than anybody else, but the reckoning is coming. I say
I couldn't have said it better.
it's already here, but it's coming. And so hold on, have faith, believe, and I was curious what you said. Which are the countries that are in prophecy? I know you said U.S. is not, America's not, China,
America's not in prophecy. They try to make it, but you got China,
China,
you got you've got the king of the east, you've got Russia, the north, you've got, of course, you've got Persia or Iran,
yeah,
and you got Israel. And those are the principles in terms of the prophetic move of God in the last days, and particularly what's going on in Israel is a sure sign. And I question that I would ask is, those people in Israel who don't agree with what Netanyahu is doing, are they anti-Semitic? Those people in Israel who believe that the Palestinians should have a nation, are they anti-Semitic? You see, what they're feeding us is, anytime you disagree
against
with what
Israel,
Israel is doing, you're anti-Semitic. And that's not true.
not
Or the whole Old Testament would be anti-Semitic, because God beat those folk because they never would do what is right. They never do what is right. And of course, they didn't have the Holy Spirit. But for the most part, they were always failing. They could take them out of Egypt. They want to go back. They wanted to take on every god the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Harvagites, the Girgashites. They wanted to be like Ammon and Moab. They wanted to get rid of they wanted a king instead of the prophet, and so they haven't always been some perfect group of people in front of God. And then America, it seems to me like these folk are white before they're Christian. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Christianity should rule. And we're going to argue Jesus was both conservative and socialist. Anybody who will take your fishes and take your loaves and feed 5,000 people with it, that seemed like taking from the rich and giving to the poor, don't it? But at the same time, he wasn't for homosexuality. He wasn't for divorce. He wasn't for a lot of stuff. So he had conservative attributes and he had socialist attributes, particularly when it came to leaving 42 million people to starve. He would never do that. He'd take money from anybody to feed those folk.
Well, there's clearly the dichotomy between Christian evangelicism and really what would Jesus do?
Well, you got to understand this. The
White
people are
before-
white. They are white before they're Christian.
That's right.
Because I was in South Africa, SABC, and it was interesting because somebody said to me, they opened it up to everybody to ask questions, and somebody asked this question, caught me totally off guard. They said, Bishop, we need you to explain. How is it that when we were worshiping our ancestries, when we were doing ancestral worship, and when we were worshiping in our own uh, native way, how is it that when we took on Christianity, we took on Islam, we end up with the Quran, we end up with the Bible, and they end up with the land? You see, because at the end of the day, the dominant culture used religion, particularly Christianity, to dominate and snatch everything from everybody.
Yeah.
So if you were Christian first, you wouldn't do that. But when you're white supremacist first, you use any means you can to take everything you can
That's right.
from anybody you can. No wonder you got the biggest military in the world. You have to, because you're 20% of the world, but you're using 45 to 50% of the resources.
Resources. Yeah.
You better have a military.
That's a good word. That's a good word. Okay. So let me switch a little bit and talk about speaking truth to power. During COVID, you were known and recognized as a voice of reason during the pandemic, while others were instilling fear and end of the world or whatever. And that was a risky. You kind of went against the narrative. What gave you the courage to stand alone? And I'm asking that question to say that there are people, that are listening or will be listening that need to speak truth to power in their office, in their home, in their churches, but they're terrified of the cost. You didn't seem to be concerned about speaking your truth, going against the narrative, even though you didn't know that the pandemic was not going to end the way it did or when it did, etc. If you call it gone, I'm not saying it's 100% gone, but you stood alone and you rebuked the fear mongering that was going on.
Well, first of all, it's interesting because you've got to. My concept of speaking truth to power is maybe different from most people,
Okay.
if not everybody, because I believe myself to be a theocrat. If I'm a theocrat, in most instances, when people say they speak truth to power, they think immediately of John the Baptist talking to Herod and end up losing his head. So that is John, minimal, speaking to that greater power, Herod, about his marriage. And of course, the lady dancing and all of that, and he loses his head. So speaking to power is the little guy who is anointed speaking up to the greater guy who happens to be the king or the president or who senator or whatever. Now, the reason I had so much liberty was because I'm a theocrat. And if I'm a theocrat, then I represent God. And if I represent God, then I'm not speaking up to anybody. I'm speaking down because a theocrat is greater and more significant than a Democrat, than a Republican, than a monarchy, than an oligarchy, than a meritocracy, than sociology, a sociologist, than a communist, than whatever man's government could possibly be. A theocrat is above that. So that gave me the freedom to
And
speak
power.
whatever came to my mind because God told me, don't worry about any other authority because fear him who can put both body and soul into the lake of fire. They can kill you, but anything you can't die for isn't worth living for. And that's the whole point. And so I had the attitude that I'm speaking down. Now, somebody will say, well, Bishop, but John lost his head. Fine. From a political point of view and from a monarchy point of view, Herod had the power over John, take his head. But listen to what Jesus said. No man born of a woman is greater than John the Baptist. That includes Herod. So from my point of view, my freedom is this. You can take my life, but you can't take my soul and my spirit, and you can't put me in hellfire. So that gives me the freedom to speak. Again, when I was dealing with the pandemic, if you said to me, Bishop, do you know it's God? I couldn't answer that. I could say, no, I don't know it's God. I believe it's God.
Right.
That's the difference. I operated on what I believed. I didn't have to know.
I got it. So those of us that are speaking truth, probably one of my things that I believe as a board member is I have peers that are sitting beside me in the boardroom.
Yes.
I'm not over them. They're not over me. But because I represent God, maybe, they are under me. But I don't look at that as speaking up to them. I just speak like, y'all need to understand what's going on with this DEI thing or whatever the topic may happen to be. And so when people want to speak truth to power, how should they frame it in their mind so that they are emboldened and not afraid of the consequences? You're saying if it doesn't kill you, it's not going to kill you. So therefore, you can go ahead and speak truth to power. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you see, first of all, you've got to understand where you fit in the scheme.
In the hierarchy, yeah.
Yeah, you got to understand where you fit because one of the things that you have to understand too is what is your motive? What is your motive? If you're dealing on a board level, then you're dealing with equals with the view to make your investors and your shareholders
profitable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what you're there for in a business environment. You're not there particularly to preach Jesus Christ. What you're there to do is to make your shareholders profit.
Okay.
So anybody that's sitting there who respects and understands your expertise in the particular discipline that you bring to that board, and any board has to have a multiple discipline group sitting together to meet the needs of that whole company and therefore make it better. So when you speak from that level,
It's a context.
you're speaking power to power.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell them your truth based upon your analysis of the situation that you need to deal with. Now, and then of course you're going to vote on it. So at the end of the day, your being accepted or not being accepted is going to be contingent on the vote for whatever it is that you promoted.
Right.
So there's no issue there, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
You speak freely from your heart because that's why you're sitting on the board.
That's right. I got you. I hope you all get that. I appreciate that. So I have another question I got to ask about your recent marriage. Um, you married beautiful, talented, amazing Lady Loretta Jones, and starting a new chapter of marriage later in life. I think it requires courage and vulnerability. Um, what did you learn about yourself in opening up your heart again? And what would you give advice to people who think that they're seasoned for certain dreams, whether it be love, achievement, um, health, whatever? They may think that that season has passed.
Well, I believe this. I believe that as long as you're living, you're growing. And whenever you stop growing, that you should
Right.
be being wheeled out in some sort of gurney on some sort of cold plate to bed. So we're growing. But it wasn't as risque for me because I'm not 20 years old stepping into a situation where I could be this close but pointed that way. So that 10 years from now, we're in another level spectrum.
Right.
This was more cognitive and more intellectual in terms of choosing than emotional. Because at my age, at her age, it becomes more rational than emotional. This is what I want. This is what you want, but it's not for the same reasons as when I was 21 or getting married. It's more cognitive, it's more intentional, and it's more this is best for you, this is best for me. Here's what we bring to the table. We love each other, but the love is not as much
It's not in
eros.
the sky. It's not an
Yeah,
immature love.
yeah. It's none of that guessing
Yeah,
and reaching and burning up and grab your butt and all that kind of stuff. It's more this is what's good for me. This is what's good for you. This is what will bless our community. This is what will bless our children. This is what will bless everybody around us, and we'll be happy with each other.
got
That's
it.
it. So, but still, after 27 years of being my own boss, of flying wherever I want to fly, if I'm leaving Nairobi the other day, and I said, you know what, I want to go to St. Bart's. All I had to do was call, arrange somebody to preach, and bingo. But now I got to come home and I've got to make the adjustments. Now, one wing of my house is no longer mine. So I had to go down and dig me out a man cave down below. And so it calls for an adjustment, even though it's you're intentional about it, you understand it, but we're different people. I wasn't raised to be with her, so I have to make that kind of adjustment. She likes the lights on all the time. I was raised where if you're not in that room, the light goes off, the TV goes off. She wants to turn the light on in the daytime so she can see. I like the lights down low. So those are the adjustments you still have to make in spite of the fact that together we get a lot done together. And
Right.
I don't tie her hands in any way. She's got the freedom to do whatever she chooses, however she chooses, and and she chooses within the parameters of what she knows and how she knows, I think.
I got it. It's not
So it's
quite
fine.
a transaction. It's not quite a transaction, but then it kind of is. There is love involved, but there's intentionality and there's some forethought that goes into it. And you probably still are surprised with certain things, but you're more mature to be able to deal with those surprises. And you are taking the long view. I think you all are taking the long view to the relationship that you have. So one little thing is not going to upset the apple cart because you're looking out at a longer.
Well, the thing is that when you're dealing with someone, you have to deal with what is it that you can modify
Yeah.
or what's a deal breaker. There are
Look,
some things that are deal breakers to
right.
some people. And remember, we say for better or worse, but we never define what worse is. See? So everybody who ever had a divorce has to repent. What are we repenting for? I don't care if he beat you in the head, if he kicked you. I don't care if she tried to poison you. At the end of the day, you made a vow. And since you didn't define what worse was, you made a vow. So all of us have to repent for the vow we made. I don't want to, at my age, with the wisdom that I've had over the years, I made the right choice. And this thing is going to go until I die. And
Right.
I'm happy, and she's happy. And that's just the way it is.
Okay. All right. We are coming up at the top of the hour. Just about. I have one quick question. Um, if you could have dinner with somebody, either alive or dead, a historical figure, who would it be?
If I could have dinner with an historical figure,
Alive or dead?
alive or dead, I would choose outside of my parents, I would choose Dr. Martin Luther King.
Okay.
And the reason I would choose it is I would say to him, based on what you see now, would you have promoted desegregation?
Hmm. Okay. We're going to leave that right there. And I want you guys to go think about what that question means, the promotion of desegregation. Would Martin Luther King have done that? And I want to talk to you more about that offline.
Okay.
Oh, so that is great. All right, so guys, we are at the top, and we're going to just do a little promo about what's coming next. As you know, we do this once a month. In December, Donna Arender, a dear friend of mine, she was the CEO and president of the WNBA. That's going to be a tremendous conversation that we're going to have. She's doing a lot of things with young women and girls to this day, and she is just forming up a new women's basketball league. So we'll talk a lot about what's going on with women's basketball. And y'all didn't know I had those kind of chops, did you? Well, I really don't, but I'll learn between now and then. And then in January, bringing up 2026, Larry Jones used to work with me at Johnson & Johnson. He is now the senior vice president at Microsoft, and he focuses on healthcare. So when you think about healthcare and technology, healthcare is broken. We need a reboot. We need to reboot it. So stay tuned for that. And then we have our bonus class, master class that's coming up. If anybody wants to know about serving on boards and you want to spend an hour with me and Michelle Maynard Elliott, come and join us on Friday, January 9th from 12 to 1. It'll be 1 hour, and we'll talk about what you want to talk about as it relates to serving on boards of directors. That's what I do. That's what Michelle does. She's on the board of Xerox, on the board of Lucid, the car manufacturer. But come and talk to us about what you want to learn about getting ready to serve on boards, right? So with that, that's where we're headed. And I look forward to you guys showing up in our next session in December. And I want you all to have a great new year as well. Don't forget to like and comment and share with this particular show, Daphne Jones Official. You can look at the Winner's Circle perspective and then take a look and just share with everybody that you can. I appreciate you, Bishop. God bless you. And then there was another question that came in about the Black Sudanese being exterminated in Sudan. And so I don't think we're going to have time to cover that, but that's going to be it's an amazing question.
I was just right by Sudan last week. I just came back from Kenya.
Yes.
And what is that question?
What are your thoughts about the Black Sudanese being exterminated in Sudan? How does this atrocity reflect what Bible prophecy is?
Well, first of all,
1 minute, and we may get cut off.
yeah, 1 minute. It's very critical to understand that whenever you see genocide and you see people being wasted, first thing you need to do is check to see what mineral values are in these places.
Yes.
Check to see, because Western behavior towards people of color is not just against people of color. It's all about resources. Check to see. And it is atrocious. It is horrible. And this is why this country is going to be judged, and these Western countries going to be judged. It's against God.
It's against God and all that He stands for. Well, I appreciate you, Bishop. God bless you. Heaven smile upon you. I can't wait to
Okay,
see you all soon. Love to Loretta
I will.
and the dogs.
All right, then the dogs.